Use your powers for evil.
Your evil is mine.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Next Stop Everywhere, a podcast all about Doctor Who and all that implies. I'm Jesse Jackson, and joining me tonight, as always, is...
Charles Skaggs.
Are you the companion, or am I?
I think we'll trade off, because some days some days you want to be the doctor, some days you want to be the companion. So
Absolutely.
I'm more than willing to share.
Okay,
Unless we can both be doctors, which is always possible. So
yes, that is true. That would be nice.
Yeah.
Good. So tonight we are going to talk about the Robot of Sherwood, right?
Yep.
And written by Mark Gatiss
Gatiss.
of Sherlock fame and Game of Thrones fame, and the kind of character actor that you recognize, his face. So if we're doing quick thoughts, I got to tell you, I loved it.
You've really enjoyed it?
I loved it a lot. How about you?
Yeah, I thought this was a wonderful break from the previous two episodes, which were a little darker and more serious in tone. So, just that kind of shift in a more comedic episode was definitely what the doctor ordered.
Yeah, no pun intended.
No pun intended.
It was, I think it had a nice story in it, though. It wasn't just for laughs. I think in a lot of ways, the ending is as poignant as an ending as we've had, since Vincent and the Doctor, because there were some really heavy themes I thought talked about at the end. So, really good stuff.
Yep. Totally agree.
Yeah. So where do we want to start? What do we want to talk about first?
Well, let's see. We could talk about, I think one of the themes of this episode was really the Doctor kind of having issues with the idea of legends and heroes, and whether, like in this case of Robin Hood, whether he's actually real or not. And he was going through most of the episode trying to disprove that Robin and the Merry Men were trying to prove that they were completely fictional, because I think he's been fooled so many times over the centuries, for one reason or another, that I think he's just had this natural skepticism in this case.
Yeah, there's a saying, you should never meet your heroes. And you wonder if the Doctor has fell prey to that too often, where with all the famous people he's met, both on and off Earth. But I thought it was a really funny and kind of sweet beginning when Clara's like, he's like, oh, wherever you want to go. And we got to figure out, what is he calculating? What is he keeps writing?
Yeah. What's up with that?
This is the third episode in a row, right?
Right.
And they got all this chalk.
Yeah, they made it right off the bat. They're just, they start the episode off with the Doctor scribbling once again on his blackboard.
Yeah.
So what's up? So he's planning something. Obviously, it's not going to pay off to the end of the season,
right.
Probably. Knowing Moffat. Maybe next year, knowing Moffat. Who knows? But, obviously he's calculating something.
And
we just don't know what yet.
So when she says, you aren't going to believe me, you're going to say he's a legend. And he's like, it is so typical, right? No, really, tell me. And then, he's a legend. And
And then
Yes.
Clara
Oh,
fangirling all over Robin Hood, which I thought that was adorable. I keep thinking that Clara has got like her own Tumblr account devoted to
yes.
Robin Hood with all kinds of gifs and banners and of everything
And
posted
she was
about how
able
dreamy Robin
to
Hood is.
go into the TARDIS clothes closet and get appropriate clothing. Because I don't think they use the holodeck or the uh, uh,
No, yeah, they have the TARDIS wardrobe room has come in definitely
yes,
has definitely come in handy over the years. But my wife Lori pointed out that she thought that Clara's costume would have made a great Ren Fair
right,
costume, but it
yeah,
wasn't
which was a
exactly
kind of a
authentic to the
nice
period.
point that um, she was doing with what she had. Um, Now my thought was,
Hmm.
yeah. So when they're meeting,
It was close
well,
enough.
before we talk about the Merry Men, wonderful sword fight, right? Um, and just so many great
Yeah, yeah.
lines about. I laugh in the face of all of that,
Hmm.
and yes, ha ha ha. And do
Yes.
people punch you in the face when you do
Doing
that?
the ha ha
Um, and I
ha.
made a note. The doctor was not happy that an arrow went into his TARDIS. Yeah, I mean, he's staring.
Right. It's 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 happened before. So it's not his first arrow in the TARDIS. And if you notice they made a point of like when he pulls the arrow out, the TARDIS reseals the hole.
Right. Yeah, so it's
Which is
self-repairing.
we've never really seen before, which is kind of cool. It's like, okay, it explains, how the like from, whatever damage the TARDIS takes in one episode, it can obviously now
Hmm.
heal that damage and not just carry it
Yeah.
over and looking battered.
Um, s- but I loved. It reminds me a little bit of the classic Robin Hood and Little John, scene.
Mm. Oh yeah, I
Yeah,
think that was deliberate.
and I like the fact that you kind of would call it a tie, which was good.
Hmm.
I'm glad the doctor kind of got a little bit, kicked down, and
Yeah,
yes,
it brought him down to earth,
yes, and
literally.
my concern when we meet the Merry Men is they're almost too perfect, right? They're exactly from the different legends. Will Scarlet, Friar Tuck, Alan Day. So yeah. So you're going, well,
Yep.
is this
Alan
someone
the
who's
Dale, yeah,
taken
right,
data from the different books and movies and created this scenario? So I was a little suspicious as well.
right, yeah, and I think, I mean, the doctor, like I said, is he's been through so much of like robots impersonating various characters over the years, or androids and cyborgs and you know just deliberate illusions and whatnot. So yeah, he's got that little jaded skepticism in his approach in this episode. And so, which is, of course, makes it all the more fun to watch him realize that, okay, he was actually wrong about Robin later on.
Yeah, that was nice.
So,
I did keep looking for the other spoon so he could play them. You know, I kept and I would keep.
that,
Yes, I wanted to
that was a
hear a
previous
line about.
doctor.
I used to play these, but alas, did not get that.
Yes. Although there were a couple of references to
Right.
previous doctors in this episode. Uh, one of them, which is I thought was kind of subtle, is where um, he's dueling, or the doctor's dueling with Robin, and he gives him a karate chop and goes hi,
Mm-hmm.
which is very John Pertwee era. For anyone that's actually seen the John Pertwee era, but just one of those things. I'm sure that was deliberate because uh, Peter Capaldi's doctor seems so obviously influenced by John
Mm-hmm.
Pertwee in dress and manner, and then the more obvious one reference was in the scene where they're going through the spaceship's database, there's an image
Yeah.
that comes up of various interpretations of Robin Hood, and one of those, for those who don't know, was of Patrick Troughton, the second Doctor,
Ah.
who actually was TV's first Robin Hood in a in a 1953 production of Robin Hood for the BBC. So he's kind of got that repertoire, and there's that link between Doctor Who and Robin Hood. And also, a little as an aside, Patrick Troughton's grandson, Sam Troughton, played Much, Robin's best friend, assistant, whatever, on the 2006 Robin Hood. So there's definitely a little linking tradition between the two shows, or between the two characters, which I think is kind of nice.
That is very cool. I did not know that. To see, listeners, this is the kind of information you get when you subscribe to this podcast. Yeah, well done. It was.
And I have no life, but
I also was wondering, and I did not take the time. I'm trying to. One of the things you and I've talked about off air is, how do you balance enjoying the show, watching the show, yet at the same time taking notes? And so there are times when I get involved in the story and I don't want to stop and rewind, take notes, or I just get involved in the story. So I didn't write all the different teachers the Doctor had, but I don't know if you remember some of them. And based on your, Charlespedia, have we actually seen the episodes where he's met those people?
Well, two of the people that I can remember him referring to offhand were Cyrano de Bergerac,
right,
and Errol Flynn, the actor who played Robin Hood in the movies back in the 1950s.
Which, by the way, holds up. That Errol Flynn movie is just amazing.
Yes, it is. I mean, yeah, the costumes are a little campy, but overall, that's one of my all-time favorite depictions of Robin Hood. I love that movie so much more than Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. Apologies to those of you that love Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. I like the movie too. Don't get me wrong, but Errol Flynn, just that whole swashbuckling demeanor and his charisma on screen and his confidence, and it totally embracing the role. With Olivia de Havilland as Maid Marian,
absolutely,
it's just a fantastic film. Highly recommended if you haven't seen it.
Did I just steal your previous? Is that going to be your recommendation? Was that
no?
This is just
a
bonus recommendation. Okay, very good.
Yeah, that's just It's not a Doctor Who episode, although it would have been an awesome
one of the things that a podcast that I listen to and I've guest starred on a couple of times, Castlecast does, is during the summer hiatus, they do Pryor's episode, and so they will do like this summer they did a big one. They rewatched Firefly because of Nathan Fillion, but they've watched like the librarian episode that Stana was the female lead in the episode. So they'll do the members of the cast, they'll do shows, they'll do podcasts during the summer, or like they talked about other shows. So we should put a note that during the hiatus, we should watch The Adventures of Robin Hood and do an episode on that. Is my long way of doing that. I guess that would be a fun way, a good excuse to pull out the DVD, watch it again, and then talk about it. So
any excuse to watch that movie, I'm all for.
Okay, very good. So yeah, and I do. Our new Doctor has not gotten a new sonic screwdriver.
No.
I see he's still using the previous Doctor's version. I was a little surprised he didn't get his own. But it's a really cool sonic screwdriver, so I could see why the Doctor would say, "No, this one's pretty good."
Well, the Sonics have carried over in the past, so it's not unheard of. It's not just like, okay, new Doctor, new Sonic screwdriver, but in recent years, especially since the return in 2005, it always seems like that it has been, especially from Tennant to Smith.
And you wonder
Um,
if that's a merchandising thing?
I think so, but I mean, if you think about it though, um, Christopher Eccleston and David Tennant's Sonic screwdrivers are basically the same
Hmm.
screwdriver. So
Yes. So,
maybe there was like a little tweaking, but
mhm.
it wasn't that noticeable.
So, Charles, I'm going to stop our discussion about this episode, and we're going to have a confession moment.
Uh-oh.
So, cue sappy music. Um,
We need some sappy music in
yeah,
here.
4 or 5 years ago, I was at my first Dragon Con, and
Mhm.
I had just started watching Doctor Who, and I loved David Tennant. So it may have been my second Dragon Con. Important thing is Matt Smith had already come, and I had been wanting a sonic screwdriver forever to have on my desk at work. I have, I have a Star Trek communicator that I play with it when I'm on con calls, and I have a Louisville Slugger small bat that I hold, and do the Tom, um, I do the Tom Cruise line. I think better with my bat from A Few Good Men. So I really wanted a sonic screwdriver. So I was at a Doctor Who, British vendor, and I'm staring at the David Tennant screwdriver and the Matt Smith screwdriver. And the Matt Smith screwdriver was just cooler. It made more sounds, it did more things, but
It was big.
I felt like I was betraying my doctor by buying the Matt Smith screwdriver. And
Scandal.
Charles, I'm not exaggerating when I sat holding both for probably 5 minutes, having this internal debate, and I finally bought the Matt Smith one. Luckily, a year or so later, someone who worked with me gave me the David Tennant one as a Christmas gift because he said, I
Oh,
noticed you didn't have
nice.
it. So now I have
Yep,
both. But
nice.
that's one of the signs when I knew, I may be getting a little bit obsessed with this show that I'm going to hurt David Tennant's feelings that which Sonic I'm
Okay.
trying.
That's funny. That's all right. I'm sure David forgives you.
Yes, I'm sure he does.
He's a fan of the show. Of course he forgives
Exactly.
you. But see, I avoided that whole dilemma by buying both.
Good for you.
I've got both David's and Matt's, but then I also have Peter Davison's
Uh-huh.
fifth Doctor Sonic screwdriver, and I also have the Master's laser screwdriver. But
Nice.
that's when I'm feeling a little super villainy on the side.
Very good. So what did you think of their take on the famous archery contest?
I thought that was fine. I thought it was fun. I thought this repeated splitting of arrows got a little overdone.
Mm-hmm.
That whole gag. I mean, I get why they did it, but the whole contest thing, and then ultimately the doctor's like, well, guess what? I cheated.
Yeah.
So I don't really know how to shoot an arrow, but I thought that was fine. I liked that there was. I mean, that was kind of common throughout the episode that they were playing off the Robin Hood stereotypes
Right.
and all the cliches.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's a better word than stereotypes, but I thought that was fine, and it just the only thing that really bothered me later in the episode was that whole sequence with the golden arrow being the tipping point for sending the spaceship up into the upper atmosphere into orbit, so that therefore everything's all nice and safe on Earth.
So, Uncle Charles, explain that to me, because that seemed not timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly, but a major hand wave Like, oh,
Yeah,
just
to do a Karen Lindsay shout out.
yeah, we've showed
Yeah.
a golden arrow. Now then,
Yep.
we have to use it, and this is how we use it.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, it just seems just like, okay, out of all the things, all that gold that they had, that gets dumped all over the sheriff, and just that the idea of this one arrow being, okay, this is it. Like it was only the arrow between the earth and certain
mhm.
doom, and it just seemed a little contrived to me. I mean, it wasn't a deal breaker, but yeah, it's one of those where you kind of sit there and you kind of like tilt your head and you're like, really?
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
um,
But you roll with it because it's
yeah.
Doctor Who.
How about the theory that the quickest way to get information is to get captured?
Yes, the Doctor has used that so many times where he's deliberately let himself be captured in order just to let it's like the whole thing from The Incredibles where I don't know if you've seen the movie, but
Yes.
where you get the villain monologuing and
Hmm.
explaining all his plans and just going off and like, okay, I'm just sitting here, la la la. Yes, I'm so helpless and captured. Please don't tell me your secret plan.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm sure that was deliberate. And then, although the little confrontation of egos between Robin and the Doctor, I thought was fun at first, and then it just kind of, like again, there was just like the gag was done too long that
Hmm.
it almost became a little bit annoying, and obviously Clara got annoyed because she told both of them to shut up,
Yes.
in in a complete Amy Pond moment.
Yes.
I thought it was completely worthy of Amy Pond, and she would be proud of Clara in that moment.
I agree, and I also um, totally agree with you about the being captured. Another great is in the Avengers with Black Widow, right? Where
Right.
she's, that's just a
Hmm.
perfect, another perfect example of that. I
Because she's such a badass. Yeah,
Yes, I
that's
did.
her way of doing it.
Yeah, like I've got these people right where I wanted. And they're all looking confused. I did love. I thought her line about "What's your plan?" and the one, and it should not include the word sonic screwdriver.
Right. Because yeah, 9 times out of 10, the Doctor's going to use the sonic screwdriver to get them out of trouble.
Yes. Yeah. Very good. Did you see the Maid Marian reveal?
I kind of, because it seemed a little odd that they hadn't introduced Marion at some point.
Okay.
So it wasn't too surprising, but it was nice. I thought it was handled very well. Because if you weren't really like looking for Marion, and realizing that the only female character that could resemble Marion is right there, I thought it was a kind of a nice surprise for fans that I thought it was handled pretty well.
Yeah, I had not been looking for her. In fact, I had gotten the feeling she may have been dead
Mhm.
in this legend of Robin Hood.
Right, the retelling,
Yeah,
the
and
retelling.
um, I also liked how there was a little bit of flirting between Clara and Robin of Locksley, but not
Hmm.
enough that you could tell his heart belonged to someone else.
Right,
And I thought that it was a really good reveal that, Clara's calling the doctor saying, you really liked him. And he kind of, well, I did leave him a present.
right.
So,
Yeah, I thought that was a good way to soften Capaldi's Doctor a bit.
mhm,
And it's like, no, he's not just this serious guy that may or may not throw androids out of, tall places.
mhm,
That maybe, yeah, he's not. He's still the Doctor we all know and love.
mhm.
So yeah, it was a nice moment, and it brought another side to this Doctor, which I thought
Yeah.
was needed.
Capaldi ate the apple so great. Just this huge back, and then the sonic screwdriver on it was just a really nice moment.
Yeah, I thought
Uh,
with him eating that apple, I was kind of wondering if is he trying to make himself go away because the
Yeah,
doctor eating, like eat an apple
exactly.
a day, yeah, all that
Yeah.
whole thing. So
Oh, very nice. I
thank you.
was thinking of Matt Smith going, "I want an apple," and then, "No, I don't."
Yeah. Well,
Um,
this doctor probably doesn't have that reaction to apples.
no, not at all. Anything else you want to talk about, specific story-wise? And
Um,
because what I want to finish with is I want to talk about um, the doctor's reluctance to be a hero and how, this is, he says, "Am I a good man?" And kind of the things, you know, and I wrote a lot of notes about, you know, history is a burden, stories can make us fly. So, anything before we get into that discussion?
okay. Well, just I did some reading online, and I found out that there was supposed to be a 1 minute scene that was edited out of that episode. And for those who don't know, it was a beheading scene, a decapitation scene.
Yes.
That where I guess the Robin during the climactic battle, Robin was supposed to, I guess, decapitate the sheriff and reveal that he was like a cyborg.
Okay.
And I guess the BBC and the Doctor Who team, they willingly edited that out because of current issues with the Islamic group ISIL
Yes.
and beheading those two reporters. And so, I mean, obviously it didn't affect the story, so I think it was a good call on their part.
Yeah, I agree.
And if anything else, it might have, like, especially, I don't know how the scene was done, but if it was too gruesome, it might have kind of put a little darkened tone or a little darkened edge on that what was normally a lighthearted episode.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, that's good. Um, and I agree with you. It doesn't. It seemed to not affect the story, and I love the fact that they were editing themselves to try not to be to cause anyone hardship or bring back unpleasant thoughts. So, Clara has now, even I don't know if she really did ever think that the 11th Doctor was her boyfriend. I think she is now very comfortable with this current Doctor as a hero. And he does not seem to want that
That
label.
honor. Yeah,
Yeah,
that
that
honor.
honor. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or that burden. I think that this is also fitting in with, the 11th Doctor talked about I got too big.
Mm-hmm.
And so, he wanted to get a little more low key.
Right.
Um,
Doing everything on the down low.
yes.
Yes.
Um,
I tend to.
but
Go ahead.
I just think it was really interesting that when he said, "Why don't you want to believe me?" And he says, "No one goes out and, steals from the rich, gives to the poor." And then he tells a little twist on the Doctor theme story, the origin story,
Mm-hmm.
that was pretty amazing.
Right. The Yeah, I think that I think the Doctor's reluctance. I mean, he's basically he's always kind of been somewhat, depending on the incarnation, of course, a reluctant hero. And in this case, and with this Doctor, he's so, like, just he wants to be focused on his agenda, what he wants to do, what he thinks needs to be done, and doesn't want any fuss, doesn't want any bother. And so when Clara kind of shows that little heroic adoration, it throws him, I think. And which, in a way, it's good because as far as, like, the viewer sees the Doctor, like, okay, he's not quite, like this pompous ass. He's just, he's doing what he feels needs to be done. And with Clara, yeah, there's obviously been the shift from that kind of like crush on the 11th Doctor to this, yeah, this new like relationship with the 12th that where they see each other as more of it's more of like like you said, it's a hero, an idol, if you will, and I'm curious to see where this goes.
I love the fact that she is seeing him as a hero. And my friend Ken, we read his email a couple weeks ago, and he and I go to lunch once a week. Uh, you guys will hear his name a lot. He is my other longtime Doctor Who fan.
He's your
He
companion.
Yes, he watches it every Saturday with his teenage son. And Parker puts Doctor Who on just in the background when he's playing games. He just pulls up a random episode, hits play through Netflix, and just keeps. So that's his background noise.
Right, right.
And they both were a little worried after the first two episodes that he was going to be a little too dark and almost unlikable. And they said after this episode, they don't have that fear. I think the Doctor is still a little bit grumpy.
Right.
But he's a grumpy like your dad or your grandfather that will I can't believe, I can't believe we're going to the prom. God, it's going to cost us so much. And then we'll buy whatever you need. Just he had to get it out grumpy first.
Yeah.
So I like that about him. And I really love his interaction with Robin. I just thought it was a very, it turned out to be a mutual respect. And
after all the egos.
Yes.
Ego clashes.
Right. And, Robin got to save the day with the golden arrow, even though that's, hi, Karen, a hand wave. So it was just very cool. And I love the ending. I like I said, it did not make me weep the way that Vincent and the Doctor does. I to this day, if I'm watching the Vincent and the Doctor, at the end, I get moist in the eyes. Happy tears, yes. I guess. Just
you old
everything.
Softy.
Yes. But this, though, I was just very, very pleased. Because, he talks about history being a burden. He's okay that no one's going to know him.
Right.
He's doing what he's supposed to do. And I also love his, be safe if you can be, but always be amazing. It was just a really nice ending.
Yeah, I think it kind of continues Stephen Moffat's penchant for fairy tales, because it was almost like a fairy tale ending. In that episode where the the Doctor dematerializes and here's Marion and the two are reunited, and you almost expect like the slow pan out of the camera and this and the music starts swelling all romantic and happy as the words "the end" come up, in a classic movie kind of way.
And I noticed Clara's theme again is this kind of whimsical, because when he's writing the data and she's talking, underneath is kind of what I've taken to be her theme. It's very pretty. I also, going back just for a moment, really cool bookshelf there in the TARDIS. I love the fact that it's not just. We talked about this before, that it's kind of cool. There's chairs.
Yes.
And I love that there was a bookshelf there. in the rounds, so to
Yeah,
speak.
and I kind of wonder if the doctor can just reach in and grab like whatever book he wants out of that bookshelf. Like, like it just seemed like, he was looking for that specific, like just happened to have that specific book there. And which I thought was like, okay, is it just coincidence that the book was there, or is this some kind of special bookshelf that, it's like it's a bookshelf that's bigger on the inside where he can reach in and
Yes,
just pull out any book like a bag of holding.
I think that is exactly what it
It's a
is.
bookshelf of holding.
It is a bookshelf of holding. We've done it. Okay, any other comments before we go to favorite lines?
Let's see. Um, the Notice that there was no Missy cameo in this episode,
But we got a
but
mention of the
yes,
promised land.
yes, there was that reference. So, and the promised land being, of course, that where the half-faced man from Deep Breath was talking about where he wanted to go, and
Mhm.
so yeah, obviously that's going to pay off later down the season as just Moffat keeps dangling these little breadcrumbs throughout the season that
Yes,
hopefully pay off nicely. So
I agree.
yeah, I thought that was interesting. I'm kind of glad there was no Missy cameo because you don't want to tease too much too soon. And I mean, we know she's out there. She's obviously collecting, but I kind of wonder if she collected the sheriff this time.
I don't know. That's a good point. I'm not sure. All right.
Guess we'll
Anything
find out.
else?
No, I think that about does it.
Okay. So, favorite line?
Favorite line, I think, has to be, "I am the doctor, and this is my spoon."
Very nice. Uh, I
It was
that
such a
was
great moment. I don't
it
know how.
is.
So, I mean, if you have something else, I'd love to hear it.
Um, I went a little more sentimental.
Of course,
Uh,
you're an old
and
softy.
yes, and the doctor says, "I'm not a hero,"
Mm.
and Robin says, "And neither am I. But if we both keep pretending to be, ha, perhaps others will be heroes in our name. Perhaps we will both be stories."
Excellent.
And I thought that was really nice. Um, and yes, I figured that's why I was going to let you go first
Oh, okay. So
because
you
I
knew
had
you,
I had the sword one there
yep,
for me too.
yeah.
Yeah,
It was just such a standout line. So yeah,
it is.
I appreciate the handoff.
Yeah, yeah, it's just great. I was so happy with it. So let's see if I look at the little agenda. Ratings.
Uh, Go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to go first.
Yeah, we're gonna flip this. You go first.
Okay, so I am going to go 9 spoons.
Ooh.
I like this more than the other two. And I actually should say 9 big ol' spoons. This one was pretty special.
Oh, good. I'm gonna say that since I can't use the spoons, I'm gonna say I give it 8 split arrows.
Nice. Now my backup, if you had picked spoons, was going to be golden arrow. So, but I like split arrows better.
Yeah, it
Nice.
just, yep. That was a. I thought it was. I thought it was a perfectly fun episode, and I'm really glad that this type of episode followed the first two. So yeah, I think this was exactly what was needed for this season so far.
I agree because I think if they had been light too quick, that you may have had people, kind of the wailing and gnashing of teeth.
Hmm.
But this way, you got to see we can do both. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, I think that's good. This episode is going to warm a lot of people that were, like you said, that were kind of hesitant about this new Doctor and thought he was a little too dark. and I think it's going to head off some criticism that the show can't be fun, because obviously it can be. And
Yes,
so take that, cynics.
exactly. So now we come to one of my favorite parts of the episode because I have to do nothing. No, just kidding.
Slacker.
Exactly. So Charles, if we were going to go in the Wayback Machine or the TARDIS, what are
Yeah, it's the TARDIS,
if,
because Doctor Who
yes,
podcast
when
together.
let's reverse the polarity and talk about other episodes that you'd recommend. If and for those of you, a reminder, if you liked this episode, Charles thinks you might like blank
This,
episode.
yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so to reverse the polarity, this time we're going to go back to 1983 in season 20 of the original series, with an episode called, a story called The King's Demons. And this story, it's one of the shorter ones. It's only a two-parter, which if you take both parts together, because they were only like half hours back then, it basically equals the amount of time in a modern episode. So it's only like 45 minutes total. So it's a breeze to walk through, to watch. And then, but this one is a Fifth Doctor episode, which is Peter Davison's Doctor, and it features his companions Tegan and Turlo, and it also introduces Chameleon, who was a very brief companion in the sense that he's introduced in this story, and we don't see him again for another season, for a full season, until his last episode in Planet of Fire. Planet of Fire. So take that for what you will, because basically he was just like this giant animatronic puppet, like a not like a it's supposed to be an android that can shapeshift.
Mm.
And yes, and so yes, this is where the robots come into play. And in this episode, which is set in 1215, which is only 25 years after Robot of Sherwood, for those of you keeping track, that it's set, basically, Chameleon is tasked with, he's basically like a pawn of the Master, who is also the villain in this episode. And he's impersonating King John, which is obviously the king at the time, and referenced in Robot of Sherwood. That and the Master's plan is to this big, being the Master, it's this big, overly elaborate plan to basically use Chameleon to discredit King John in order to like cause a rebellion that would where his throne would be taken over, and therefore the Magna Carta would be prevented. So, which is like the foundation of the parliamentary procedure of democracy. So, a little history bit right there for you kids. But this the tone is, because of the that kind of setting of the time period, and with robots involved, and yes, there's even a sword fight between the Fifth Doctor and the Master. So there's a lot. I think that if it's not the best episode, but I think if you liked Robot of Sherwood, or if you really enjoyed Robot of Sherwood, you might want to give this one a try, because it's kind of in the same vein. Yes, it's older, so you kind of take that for what you will, but it's a pretty fun episode, and I think worth checking out.
Wow, that sounds good. Thanks, Charles.
You're welcome.
Boy, you even connected with King Charles
King
and
John.
King
Yep.
John and everything. Yeah,
Yep.
very
Yep.
nice. Good. Okay.
Boom.
Yes. Do we have any news speculation that you've researched or seen?
Since not much has been going on, apart from that, there's still that kind of up in the air speculation about whether Jenna Coleman's going to be leaving with the Christmas special. She's being very coy about it. I think we touched on that when in the previous episode with Karen Lindsay, that
Yes.
yeah, that she's been kind of deliberately cagey about it. So she's like, well, maybe I am, and I think that's kind of fun to have people talking about it. So I'm not quite sure where that's going to go,
Okay.
but I know that coming up, obviously there's the whole big revelation. I'm sure coming up will be Missy
Mm-hmm.
in the season finale. But as a lot of people know, that two-parter, at least the final part of that episode, is going to feature the return of a certain unit scientific advisor.
Ah, nice.
Yes, that
Okay.
we've seen in the past. A couple episodes here, not too recently, including a very important anniversary special. So,
Yes.
so I don't want to completely blow that, but if you've
Okay.
pieced together, you should be able to figure it out. And
Okay.
of course, it's going to feature the return of one of Doctor Who's most legendary enemies as well.
Okay.
So
All right.
we have that coming up to look forward to.
Very good. So I think this is going to wrap us up. Please let us know how we're doing. Go to iTunes, write a review, give us a rate the episodes. We were really pleased how well the episodes performed, and we want to get more and more listeners.
Yes, please.
Yes, we have a Facebook page. Look for Next Stop Everywhere, and you'll come up. Twitter, Next Stop SMG is the show account. I'm at JWJ170104.
And I'm at Charles Skaggs on Twitter, which is a little easier to remember. But
Yes.
and I'm also on Facebook and Instagram and Google Plus for the two of you that use Google Plus.
Yes.
But and then you can also check me out on my geeky blog, Damn Good Coffee and Hot, where I will talk about things like Next Stop Everywhere and Doctor Who and comics and sci-fi and you name it. I will probably talk about it or write about it in that case. But
Absolutely.
yeah, and also be sure to check us out on iTunes because
Yes.
that's become like just one of our favorite things to see the reaction and see the reviews and see us charting up, moving up the TV and film charts. So help us keep doing that because we want to beat everybody for that kind of. We want to be number one someday. We don't expect it right away, but
Yes, we want to be your Doctor Who podcast. So I think that's going to call it a show. Thank you, Charles. I had fun as always. And so I guess the only thing I've got to do is say keep hope alive. And remember, do what I do. Hold tight and pretend it's a plan.
If you would like to donate to help pay for this and other Southgate Media Group podcasts, simply go to our website, southgatemediagroup.com, and click on the donate button. It can be as little as $1 or, well, as much as you want. Help keep this fun going by supporting this and our other shows. Thanks again for listening, everyone. You're the best fans in the world.
Hey, this is Crazy Joe.
And this is Dave, host of Megapodzilla,
The podcast equivalent to a 100-foot radioactive robot lizard.
but with horn-rimmed glasses and a pocket protector.
Huh, that's nerdy. We're on the rampage, laying waste to the geek landscape.
We'll talk movies, TV, comics, toys, video games.
And sometimes we talk turkey.
Don't you mean chicken?
That's right. So check us out at megapodzilla.com.
We're also available on iTunes,